John and Margie, Teresa and I are disappointed that we can't be there for the great celebration. Our family goes back for many generations, and the values that have allowed us to survive, that we've been taught by our ancestors, that we hope to teach our children and our grandchildren, are ones that have served Idaho well over the last 150 years and over the last 100 years of the J.C. Watson Company. And that is to be a good business person, to continue to add value, be entrepreneurial, honor your word, and create win-wins for yourself, your vendors, and your customers. The second one is that we always need to continue to work in the community, to make the community a better place. What you've done around the area of Parma, for the city of Parma, for Canyon County, for the University of Idaho, is well known by yourselves and everyone there in attendance this evening. But of course, lastly, is participation in our great governmental system. I often say that if you're not at the table, there's a good chance you're on the menu. Margie, I mean this in a good way, but there's no question that you're not on the menu, that you've always been at the table. So congratulations, enjoy the party, and I hope that when you have your sesquicentennial to celebrate 150 years, our grandchildren are able to attend. Thank you.
The first 100-year history of J.C. Watson Company might be described as the right people in the right place at the right time. That the relationship between the people and place has been long-lived and multifaceted, branching through a century, makes it a particularly interesting story. Late in the year 1911, a young pharmacist from the Midwest decided to move west with his family, preferably to settle in California, Utah, or Colorado. He took his wife on a trip of exploration of these places. An old friend of theirs, E.G. Johnson, who had known J.C. through the pharmacy business around Sioux City, Iowa, had previously come to Apple Valley, Idaho, near Parma, to start an investment company specializing in orchard lands. E.G. had convinced the Watsons to purchase 2 5-acre fruit tracts, and he coaxed J.C. and Emma to stop in Idaho during the trip west to inspect their holdings. In just a few short days, it seemed the visitors fell under the spell of Parma, and the townfolk here reciprocated warmly.
When leaving, Mr. Watson was more than half persuaded to cast his lot with us and make his home in the future in Parma. If he decides to do so, we assure him that he and his family will receive from the estimable people of Parma a welcome, warm, hearty, and sincere. Parma Review, December 1911.
The editor of the little local newspaper, always ready to promote the area, took the opportunity to crow a little about the town and these fine new folks joining the other up-and-comers who were making this spot home.
Parma has made another convert. Another enthusiastic boaster has been manufactured. This time, J.C. Watson of Sheldon, Iowa. For the beauty of climate, grandeur of scenery, and wonderful fertility of soil of the Parma Valley, Mr. Watson was wholly unprepared. Parma Review, December 1911.
J.C. had been in town only 1 week when active entrepreneur E.G. Johnson went out of town on business for a week, turning all of his operations over to J.C., who was simultaneously procuring the family's first home in Parma and setting up his own office space.
Dear Grandpa, this is a picture of the house we are living in. I am feeling very well nowadays, and so is Robert and Emma. I am in the loan business. They organized a loan company at this place, and I am secretary and manager. J.C. Watson, postcard to Iowa, March 1912.
Union Loan Company worked closely with E.G. Johnson's Idaho Land Company to provide financing for the business and residential packages that were helping settlers to become independent entrepreneurs. It was their work, along with that of E.M. Kirkpatrick and J.C. Blackwell, that led to the newspaper calling these four the Star Squad and declaring a new chapter in Parma history. That is, a time when the uncertain prospect of relying upon rainfall to grow enough vegetation to raise cattle on 1,000 or so acres had evolved, thanks to the big irrigation projects, to reliable profits through horticulture on as little as 5 highly cultivated and intensely tended acres. Union Loan financed several new homes in Parma Heights that first year, as well as an additional symbol of this new era in profitable small-size orchard investments, a Parma packing shed. Emma and JC were involved in PTA, Sunday school, church eldership, membership in the Parma Roswell Fruit Growers Association, directorship of the Social Improvement Association of Parma, and other active groups. But JC saw one need going unfulfilled, and that was an improved way for the growers to get their bountiful harvest out to the consumers. So he added to all his other pursuits the intention of putting together full rail cars of produce from partial lots that would not on their own be large enough to justify hiring the transportation. That first year, 1912, he sent out 16 cars. He was proud of that initial record for the rest of his life. By 1927, however, the number had risen to 627 cars. Over 15 years, he had increased the volume of produce being shipped out 40 times over. By the time of his death in 1951, shipments were in excess of 1,800 cars per year.
Well, grandfather and my father were really true pioneers in the produce business. Not necessarily because Parma and the area were so young, but because of their true and spontaneous innovations. Looking back, an article in the Parma Review, it showed preparing and loading lettuce. Previous year in 1913, they actually prepared the lettuce and packaged it inside the rail car. A simple thing such as building a platform outside of the rail car innovated the labor and the organization greatly, and that became how lettuce was packed from there on out. And as acreage and volume of produce grew, it became necessary to increase the shelf life. So my father and my grandfather were very innovative in storage techniques.
Well, innovation is the name of the game, and the Watsons get that. It started with my tenure with Jim, and I watched him take an idea from one commodity and change it over to another one. He took a lettuce crate, added a header to it, and took it out into the onion field where they always just bag the onions in the field. They filled those crates with onions, and then they could stack them higher one on the other, making it way more productive. And I've also seen that with John, year after year, tweaking something.
I'm thinking maybe part of JC might be lingering around in Bradley. He kind of gives us a fresh new look on problems and situations that need to be solved, and a lot of our business is turning problems into opportunities.
Well, Brad's a mechanical engineer, and so he brings that to the arena. So he goes in the packing shed and looks at it from different eyes on how we could make the machinery work more efficiently, faster, better. This year, Bradley developed a brand new planter that is the biggest onion planter I think anybody in the valley's ever seen. It's state-of-the-art planting onion seed with drip tape.
One of the new projects we're going to be trying here in a few months is a biofumigant cover crop that I'm pretty excited to see how that works. And we'll actually be planting radishes after wheat to help control soil-borne pests and build soil health. And that's a first for us.
J.C. and Emma Watson's son, James Frederick Watson, was born on August 26, 1915. Like each succeeding Watson generation, Jimmy ran and played under the bright Idaho skies, trailed his dad in and out of the office and through the fields and orchards, attended the Parma schools, went away for a few short years to the University of Idaho and the University of Michigan, and then came back to Parma for good. He too was a man of ideas and leadership, and he continued the legacy of service to the community through a multitude of ways, not the least of which was serving as Parma mayor when the village incorporated into a township.
It seems that clear back to my grandparents, J.C. and Emma, they had quite a urge for community service. And my father and mother kept the torch going, so to speak, and set a pretty high bar for our family, and we chose many avenues of service to the community and church and school.
Well, when I married John in 1975, it came with the fire department, city council, and a myriad of ag commodity groups that he was with. We woke up almost nightly to the siren and him jumping out of bed, getting in his boots and going down to a fire. So community service runs long and deep in the Watson family.
Both my grandfather and mother were mayors of the city, and I think that was a huge accomplishment for both of them, both from the community supporting them and their desire to give back to the community. Really look up to my mom and all the achievements that she was able to do, both as city council member and as mayor. Anything from street lights to revitalizing the pool to doing everything that she could to make Parma the place that it is today and make it better than when she started.
All of the Watsons were doers. Jim was blind when I came into the scene. John's father, he was still on the board of directors for Idaho First National Bank and a trustee at the College of Idaho. And whether it was the president of college or the president of Idaho First National Bank, they all told me, though he was blind, he was more informed than any other one of the trustees or directors, because Dolphin May, his wife, read every single piece of document that came to him.
Great-grandmother Emma Watson has her namesake in Brad's sister Emily, who has found a special niche in agribusiness, working locally and internationally as a seed marketing specialist. Emily has been part of J.C. Watson Company since she was very small, and she carries that work ethic with her when she moves across the globe.
I think growing up in my family, there was just no other option but to work hard. I think everyone in our family is doers, and we work hard, we get things done, and we solve problems.
The 2012 Centennial Celebration marks not only the anniversary of the company and the life of the family, but also 100 important years for Parma. Emma passed away in 1941, the same year the U.S. entered World War II. Regardless of his personal loss, J.C. continued even stronger in produce shipping, now with the urgency of providing food to a nation at war and the troops overseas. Added into the challenge were shortages in fuel and equipment, labor scarcities, and fluctuations in rail service. But J.C. Watson Company kept high quality and regular shipments of produce going out, doing their part for the war effort. When J.C. passed away in 1951, Jim was already at the head of the company, bringing in new aspects to growing, packing, shipping, and marketing. He had married Dolpha May Parker in 1941, and they had 6 children: Liz, Cheryl, Candy, Rick, John, and Dee Dee.
Jim Watson's leadership enabled the J.C. Watson Company to become one of the oldest and most established packers and shippers of potatoes, apples, cherries, and sweet Spanish onions. Idaho Press Tribune, June 1991.
In 2012, the Idaho-Oregon Fruit and Vegetable Association honored the late Jim Watson as a founding member from 50 years ago. Generations 3 and 4 were honored to accept a commemorative plaque on Jim's behalf. And day by day, season by season, the work and the planning is taking the J.C. Watson Company into the next century.
I'd like to see it, be more or less where it is today, but being able to innovate and stay competitive as things change. Over our history, we've changed commodities, we've focused on and changed ways that we've done things. And that's really, I think, been the focus of what's made it the last 100 years. And I think that same concept will be applicable for the next 100 years of changing with times, adopting new technologies, and understanding what your customer needs and how to do that to the best of your ability.
Throughout 100 years, the productive fields, the creative and far-seeing minds of 4 generations of Watsons, the hard work and commitment of a fine local base of intelligent and just-minded local people, and the freedom afforded by a country unprecedented in its groundwork of democracy, have brought about a new benchmark in the timeline of J.C. Watson Company. And it started with the one fortunate moment just over a century ago when J.C. Watson stopped in town. Today, J.C. and Emma, Jim and Dulpheme would undoubtedly approve of the technological upgrades, such as the new color onion sorter with its high-resolution camera. They would be proud of the high energy of the family and the loyalty of those who helped the company to thrive. They would remember fondly and be honored by the old and new private Watson labels, such as Sue Brand and Sue Ring and Trailblazer. And they would give their endorsement to the changes in this old town that meant so much to them. And so, the next 100 years begin.